Welcome to The Explainer. All right, today we are diving into something that is, let's be honest, a constant in pretty much every single workplace and a huge source of stress for a lot of us: organizational change.
You know, we've all been there. Change happens at work, and it feels like this big, unpredictable wave that just crashes over us. But what if that's not the whole story? What if we could actually get a handle on it? Understand it, navigate it, maybe even manage it? Let's dig in.
Okay, so first things first, we gotta understand why change even happens. What are these big forces, both inside and outside a company, that make changing not just a good idea, but an absolute must if you want to stick around?
So, the pressure to change really comes from two directions. You've got these huge outside forces. Think about new technology popping up, what customers want changing on a dime, or even new regulations. And then you've got the inside forces. This is stuff like your own employees being unhappy, or maybe a new manager comes in and wants to do things totally differently. When these two things start pushing at the same time, well, you've got no choice but to adapt.
And here's what's really fascinating. The whole game has shifted. It used to be that the company with the most information won. But come on, today information is everywhere, right? It's cheap. The real competitive advantage now is knowledge. It's about being able to take all that information and actually do something smart with it. And to do that, you have to be constantly changing.
All right, so we get the why. But here's the thing. Not all change is the same, right? Some changes are just tiny tweaks, like a little course correction. Others, they feel like a full-on earthquake shaking the entire building. So let's break down the different faces of change you're probably going to run into.
Probably the simplest way to slice it is this. Are you playing offense or defense? Reactive change is playing defense. It's putting out fires. A problem pops up, and you've got to scramble to fix it. Proactive change, though, that's playing offense. That's being the firefighter who installs smoke detectors and clears out the brush before there's even a spark. You're looking ahead and making moves before you're forced to.
Okay, besides just timing, we can also look at how big of a deal the change is. Think of it like a Richter scale for organizational disruption, going from a tiny tremor to a major quake. So at the low end of the scale, you've got adaptive change. This is the stuff that makes people go, oh yeah, we've seen this before. It's the least scary. Think about your department getting the latest version of a software you already use every day. It's familiar, it's not a huge leap, and it's pretty low stress.
Then, moving up the scale, we hit innovative change. This is where you hear, okay, this is new for us. Your company is doing something for the very first time, even if other companies have been doing it for years. A great example is a classic brick-and-mortar store deciding to finally sell online. It's a bigger deal, right? There's definitely more uncertainty floating around.
And then there's the top of the scale, radically innovative change. This is the game changer. This is when someone says, whoa, nobody in our entire industry is doing this. You're literally inventing the playbook as you go. It's super complex, it's super risky, but hey, if you pull it off, the reward can be absolutely massive.
So, knowing why change is happening and what kind of change it is, that's a great start. But it's not enough, right? The million-dollar question is how. How do we actually steer the ship through these stormy waters? Well, lucky for us, there are some really solid models out there that give us a kind of roadmap. Let's look at two of the big ones.
First up is a real classic from a guy named Kurt Lewin. His model is so simple and powerful. And the best way to get it is to think about an ice cube. Let's say you have a square ice cube and you want a round one. You can't just squeeze it into a circle, right? You got to follow a process.
So step one is unfreezing. You literally have to melt the ice. For a company, this means creating the motivation to change. You've got to get people to see that the old way, the square ice cube, just isn't working anymore. It's about breaking down that old, rigid mindset.
Okay, so the ice is now water. That brings us to stage 2, changing. This is where you pour that water into your new round mold. In the real world, this is the learning phase. It's when you give people the new tools, the new information, the training they need to actually adopt the new way of doing things. And last but not least, stage 3, refreezing. You've got the water in the round mold, now you stick it back in the freezer. You make it solid again. This is maybe the most crucial step. It's about making sure the new way of doing things actually sticks. You support it, you reinforce it, until it just becomes the new normal.
And what's so brilliant about this model is that it's a cycle. You refreeze into this new, stable state, but you know what? Eventually, that new round ice cube will need to be unfrozen and changed into a triangle or something. It's this constant, ongoing loop of adapting to the world around you.
Now, Lewin's model is awesome, but it's pretty high level.
If you want to get a bit more granular, you can use what's called a systems approach. Instead of an ice cube, think of your organization like a complex car engine. It's not one solid block. It's a bunch of different parts all working together. And if you change one little part, you better believe it's going to affect how the whole thing runs.
So this approach makes you think like an engineer. You start with your inputs. Basically, why are we even doing this? What's the point? Then you figure out your target elements. These are the actual levers you can pull, the parts you can change. Maybe it's the team structure, new software, or how people do their jobs. Next, you need to know your outputs. What do we want to see at the end of all this? What does success look like? And the magic ingredient is the feedback loop, which constantly tells you if your changes are actually working so you can tweak things as you go.
Okay, so these models are fantastic toolkits. But who are the mechanics? Who actually uses these tools to work on the engine? Well, there's a whole field dedicated to this, and it's called organizational development, or just OD.
You can think of OD as the how-to guide for making change happen on the ground. It's a whole collection of techniques for putting planned changes into action to hit specific goals. Maybe you want to boost performance, or maybe you need to breathe some life back into a company that's gotten stuck in its ways, or, and this is a big one, help two totally different companies figure out how to work together after a merger.
And the process OD folks use is super practical. It's a cycle. First, you have diagnosis. Let's figure out what the real problem is, not just the symptoms. Then comes the intervention. Okay, what are we actually going to do about it? What's the plan? After you do it, you need evaluation. Did our plan work? Like, for real? And finally, you get feedback, which feeds right back into the process so you get smarter for the next time. Because trust me, there's always a next time. So when you put it all together, you start to see that change doesn't have to be this big, scary, chaotic thing. It actually has structure, it has causes, it has different levels of intensity, and we have proven playbooks to manage it. The real shift is going from feeling like change is something that just happens to you to being someone who can actively shape and guide it. So I'll leave you with a question to chew on. Think about your world, your job, your team. What's the biggest force for change pushing on you right now? Is it coming from the outside, or is it starting from within?